don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
They say.
I hear.
I hear.
They say.
I don't believe it. The whole city is talking.
You hear it all over.
The cafe.
The opera.
The prater.
The gutter.
They say even Metternich repeats it.
They say even Beethoven, his old pupil.
But why now?
After so long.
32 years.
I don't believe it.
They say he shouts it out all day.
I hear he cries it out all night.
Stays in his apartment.
Never goes out.
Not for a year now.
Longer.
Must be 70.
Older.
Antonio Salieri.
The famous musician.
Shouting it aloud.
Crying it aloud.
Impossible.
Incredible.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
I know who started the tale.
I know who started the tale.
The old man's valet.
The old man's cook.
The valet hears him shouting.
The cook hears him crying.
What a story.
What a scandal.
What does he say, your master?
What does he cry, the Kapellmeister?
Alone in his house.
All day and all night.
What sense does he shout?
The old fellow. What horrors have you heard? Tell us at once. What does he cry? What does he cry? What does he cry?
Mozart! Perdonami, Mozart. Il tuo assassino ti chiede perdono.
Pardon, Mozart?
Pardon your assassin? God preserve us.
Pietà, Mozart. Mozart, pietà.
Mercy, Mozart.
Mozart, have mercy.
He speaks in Italian when excited.
German when not.
Perdonami, Mozart.
Pardon your assassin.
There was talk once before, you know.
32 years ago.
When Mozart was
He
dying.
claimed he'd been poisoned.
Some said he accused a man.
Some said that man was Salieri.
But no one believed it.
They knew what he died of,
Syphilis, surely.
like everybody else.
But what if Mozart was right?
If he really was murdered.
And by him, our first Kapellmeister?
Antonio Salieri.
It can't possibly be true.
It's not actually credible.
Because why?
Because why? Why on earth
would he do it? And why confess now?
After 32 years.
Mozart, perdonami. Il tuo assassino ti chiede perdono.
What do you think?
What do you think?
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
All the same.
Is it just possible?
Did he do it after all?
Vi saluto. Ombri del futuro, Antonio Salieri, a vostro servizio. I can almost see you in your ranks, waiting for your turns to live. Ghosts of the future, be visible. I beg you, be visible. Will you not come to this dusty old room? This time, the hours, the smallest hours of dark November 1823, and be my confessors? Will you not come to this place and stay with me until dawn? Just until dawn and until 6 o'clock? Oh, did you hear them? Vienna is a city of slander. Everyone tells tales here, even my servants. I keep only 2 of them now. They've been with me ever since I first came here 50 years ago. The keeper of the razor, the maker of the cakes. One keeps me tidy, the other keeps me full. Now leave me now, both of you. Tonight I do not go to bed at all. Return here tomorrow morning at 6 precisely to shave, to feed your capricious master, Via. No, Via. Let's see. How surprised they look, eh? They'll be even more surprised tomorrow morning. Indeed they will. Indeed they will. Oh, won't you appear? This is now the last night of my life. Those about to die implore you. Oh, what must I do to make you appear, to raise you up in the flesh, to be my last audience? Does it take an invocation? That's how it was always done in opera. Ah, yes, yes. That's it, an invocation. The only way. Now, let me try to conjure you now, ghosts of the distant future, so that I may see you. Ghosts of the future, shades of time to come, so much more unavoidable than those of time gone by, appear with what sympathy incarnation may endow you. Appear you, the yet to be born, the yet to hate, the yet to kill. Appear, posterity. Oh, I can see you. Good, it worked. Now, that is the result of proper training. I was taught invocation by Chevalier Gluck, who was a true master at it. But in those days, you had to be. That is what people went to the opera for, the raising of God and ghosts. Nowadays, since Rossini became the rage, they all prefer to watch the antics of hairdressers. Scusate. Invocation is an exhausting business. I need refreshment. It's a little repellent, I admit, but actually, the first sin that I have to confess to you is gluttony. Sticky gluttony at that. Infantine Italian gluttony. The truth is that I have never been able to conquer a lust for the sweetmeats of northern Italy where I was born. My entire career was conducted to the taste from the ages of 3 to 73 of almonds with sprinkled sugar. Milanese biscuits, Sienna macaroons, snow dumplings in pistachio sauce. Oh, do not judge me too harshly for all this. All men harbor patriotic feelings of one kind or another. Of course, I was born in 1750, when no man of sophistication would have dreamed talking about love of country or Mother Earth. No. We were men of Europe, and that was enough. My parents were Italian subjects of the Austrian Empire, a small-town merchant and his small-town wife. Their notion of place was the tiny town of Legnago, which I could not wait to leave. Their notion of God was a superior Habsburg emperor who inhabited a heaven only slightly further off than Vienna. All they asked of their God was to keep them forever unnoticed, preserved in mediocrity. Well, my own needs were very different. I wanted fame. No, not to deceive you, I wanted to blaze like a comet across the firmament of Europe, yet in only one especial way. Music. Absolute music. A note of music is either right or wrong, absolutely. Not even time can alter that. Music is God's art. Already when I was 10, a spray of sounding notes would make me dizzy almost to falling. By the time I was 12, my one desire was to join all the composers who celebrated God's glory in the long Italian past. Every Sunday I went to church. I saw him painted up on that flaking wall. Oh, no, I don't mean Christ. The Christs of Lombardy were simpering sillies with lambkins painted on their sleeves. Now, I mean an old candle-smoked God in a mulberry robe looking down upon the world with dealer's eyes. Tradesmen had put him up there. Those eyes made bargains real and irreversible. You give me so, I give you so. No more, no less. Well, one night I went to see him, and I made a bargain with him myself. I was a sober 16, filled with a desperate sense of right. And as I knelt down to the god of bargains, I looked up at him through the moldering plaster, and I prayed with all my soul. Signore, please let me be a composer. Grant me sufficient fame to enjoy it, and in return I will live with virtue, I will be chaste, I will strive to better the lot of my fellows, and I will honor you with much music all the days of my life. And as I said amen, I saw his eyes flare. Bene. Go forth, Antonio. Serve me and mankind, and you shall be blessed. Grazie, I called back up to him. I'm your servant for life. The very next day, a family friend suddenly appeared, out of the blue. Took me off to Vienna and paid for me to study music. Shortly afterwards, I was introduced to the Emperor of Austria, who favored me and was to advance my career beyond all expectations. Clearly, my bargain had been accepted. The same year I left Italy, a young prodigy was touring Europe, a miraculous virtuoso aged 10 years, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And now, gracious ladies, obliging gentlemen, I present to you, for one performance only, my last composition, entitled The Death of Mozart, or Did I Do It? Dedicated to posterity on this, the last night of my life. The place throughout is Vienna. The year, to begin with, 1781. The age still that of the Enlightenment, that clear time before the guillotine fell in France and cut all our lives in half. I am 31, already a prolific composer to the Austrian court. I own a respectable house and a respectable wife, Teresa. Oh, I do not mock her, I assure you, my friends. I required only one quality in a domestic companion, lack of fire. And in that omission, Teresa was conspicuous. I also had a prize pupil, Caterina Cavalieri. Later to become the best singer of her age. She was a bubbling student with merry eyes and a sweet, eatable mouth. I was very much in love with Katerina. Or at least in lust, but because of my vow to God, I was entirely faithful to my wife. I never even laid a finger upon the girl. Except occasionally to depress her diaphragm in a way of teaching her to sing. My ambition burned with an unquenchable flame. Its chief goal was the post of first royal Kapellmeister, then held by Giuseppe Bono, 70 years old and apparently immortal. You, when you come, will be told that we musicians of the 18th century were nothing more than servants, the willing slaves of the well-to-do. Well, that is quite true. And it is quite false. Oh, yes, we were servants. But we were learned servants, and we used our learning to celebrate men's average lives. We took Unremarkable men, usual bankers, run-of-the-mill priests, ordinary soldiers and statesmen and wives, and sacramentalize their mediocrity. We smooth their noons with strings divisi, we pierced their nights with citarini, we gave them processions for their strutting, serenades for their rutting, high horns for their huntings, and drums for their wars. Trumpets sounded when they entered the world, and trombones groaned when they left it. The savor of their days remains behind because of us. Our music still remembered, while their politics are long forgotten. Tell me, before you call us servants, who served whom? And who, I wonder, in your generations, will immortalize you?
Sir!
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 I was the most successful young musician in the city of musicians, and now suddenly, without warning,
Mozart! Mozart has come!
these are my venticelli, my little winds, as I call them. The secret of successful living in any large city is to know to the moment what is being done behind your back.
He's left Salzburg,
Means to give concerts.
asking for subscribers.
I'd known of him for years, of course. Tales of his prowess were told all over Europe.
They say he wrote his first symphony at age 5.
I hear his first concerto at age 4.
A full opera at 14.
Mithridate, king of Pontus.
How old is he now?
25.
And how long is he remaining?
He's not departing.
He's here to stay.
You are required to commission a comic opera in German from Herr Mozart.
Johann von Strack, royal chamberlain, a court official to his collarbone.
Why in German? Italian is the only possible language for opera.
Count Orsini Rosenberg, director of the opera, benevolent to all things Italian, especially myself.
The idea of national opera is dear to His Majesty's heart. He desires to hear pieces in good, plain German.
Yes, but why comic? It is not the function of music to be funny.
Baron van Swieten, prefect of the Imperial Library, ardent Freemason, yet to find anything funny. Known for his enthusiasm for old-fashioned music as Lord Fugue.
I heard last week a remarkable serious opera by Mozart, Idomeneo, King of Crete.
I heard that too. A young fellow trying to impress beyond his abilities. Too much spice. Too many notes.
Nevertheless, kindly convey the commission today.
I believe we are going to have trouble with this young man. He was a child prodigy. That always spells trouble. His father is Leopold Mozart, a bad-tempered Salzburg musician who dragged the boy endlessly around Europe, making him play keyboard blindfold with one finger and that sort of thing. All prodigies are hateful. Non è vero, compositore?
Divengono sempre sterili con gli anni.
Ah, precisamente.
What are you saying?
Nothing, Herr Chamberlain. Niente, Signor Pomposo.
We meet tomorrow, I believe, on your committee to devise pensions for old musicians.
It's most gracious of you to attend, Baron.
You're a worthy man, Salieri. You should join our Brotherhood of Masons. We would welcome you warmly.
I would be honored, Baron.
If you wish, I can arrange for initiation into my
Oh,
lodge.
that would be more than my due.
Nonsense. We embrace men of talent of all conditions. May invite young Mozart also, dependent on the impression you make.
Of course, Baron. Honor indeed. In those days, almost every man of influence in Vienna was a Mason, and the Baron's Lodge by far the most fashionable. As for young Mozart, I confess that I was alarmed by his coming. Not by the commission of a comic opera, even though I myself at the time was attempting one called The Chimney Sweep. No, what worried me were reports about the man himself. He was praised altogether too much.
Such gaiety of spirit,
Such ease of manner.
such natural charm.
Really? Where does he live?
A Peterplatz.
Number 11.
The landlady is Madame Weber.
A real bitch.
Takes in male lodgers and has a tribe of daughters.
Mozart was engaged to one of them before.
a soprano called Aloysia.
She jilted him.
And now he's after the other sister.
Constanza.
You mean he was actually engaged to one sister and now means to marry another?
Exactly.
Her mother's pushing marriage.
His father isn't.
Daddy's worried sick.
Writes him every day from Salzburg.
I want to meet him.
He'll be at the banished Waldstatens tomorrow night.
Oh, grazie.
Some of his music is to be played.
Restiamo in contatto.
Certamente, signore.
So, to the Baroness Waldstatens I went. That night changed my life. I entered the library first to take a little refreshment. My generous hostess always left out the most delicious array of confections whenever she knew I was coming. Dolce, caramelle, and most especially a miraculous crema al mascarpone, which is quite simply cream cheese mixed with granulated sugar and suffused with rum that was totally irresistible. I had just sat down in a high-backed chair, ready to consume this paradisal dish, unobservable as it happened to anyone who might come in.
Meow. Meow.
I'm going to bounce. I'm going to scrunch munch. I'm going to chew poo my little mouse paws. I'm going to tear to bits with my claws. Claws.
Before I could rise, it had become difficult to do so.
I'm going to bite you in half with my bangs, wangs, my little stanzrill, banzrill. Oh, you're trembling. I think you're frightened of puss wuss. I think you're scared to death. I think you're going to shit yourself. In a moment, it's going to be all over the floor.
Stop it! I'll hear you.
Hey, what's trazome?
What?
Trazom. What's that mean?
Well, how should I know?
It's Mozart spelled backwards, shitwit. If you married me, you'd be Constanza Trazom.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes, you would. Because I'd want everything backwards once I was married. I'd want to lick my wife's arse instead of her face.
Well, you're not going to lick anything at this rate. Your father's never going to give his consent to us.
And who cares about his consent?
Well, you do.
You care very much. You wouldn't do it without it.
Wouldn't I?
No, you wouldn't. Because you're too scared of him.
And I know what he says about me.
If you marry that dreadful girl, you'll wind up lying on straw with beggars for children.
Marry me.
Oh, don't be silly.
Marry me.
Are you serious?
Yes, answer me this minute, yes or no. Say yes, and then I can go home, climb in the bed, shit over the mattress and shout, I did it!
Her ladyship is ready to commence.
Oh, yes, good. Come, my dear. The music waits.
By all means, Herr Trazon.
And then, right away, the concert began. I heard it through the door, some serenade. At first only vaguely, too horrified to attend, but presently the sound insisted. A solemn adagio in E-flat. It started simply enough, just a pulse in the lowest registers, bassoon and basset horns, like a rusty old squeeze box. It would have been comic, except for the slowness, which instead gave it a sort of serenity. And then suddenly, high above it sounded a single note on the oboe. It hung there, unwavering, piercing me through until breath could hold it no longer. And then a clarinet withdrew it out of me and sweetened it into a phrase of such delight that it had me trembling. The lights in the room flickered, my eyes clouded. The squeeze box groaned louder, and then above it, the higher instruments wailed and warbled, sending lines of sound around me, long lines of pain around and through me. Oh, the pain. I mean, pain as I had never known it. I called up to my sharp old God. I said, what is this? What? But the squeeze box went on, and the pain cut through my shaking head until suddenly I found that I was running, dashing out through the side door, stumbling down the stairs into the street, into the cold night, gasping for life. What? What is this? Tell me, Signor, what is this pain? What is the need in this sound, forever unfulfillable and yet fulfilling him who hears it utterly? Is it your need? Can it be yours? Dimly the music sounded from the salon above. Dimly the stars shone down on the empty street. I was suddenly frightened. It seemed to me that I had heard a voice of God, and that it issued from a creature whose own voice I had already heard. And it was the voice of an obscene child. I ran home and buried my fear in work. More pupils until there were 30 and 40, more committees toiling long hours to help the lot of poor musicians, more motets and anthems to God's glory. And at night, I prayed for just one thing. Let your voice enter me. Let me be your conduct. Let me. As for Mozart, I avoided meeting him. And I sent out my little winds for whatever copies of scores of his could be found.
Six forte piano sonatas composed in Munich.
Clever.
2 in Mannheim.
They were all clever.
A Parisian symphony.
And yet they seemed to me to be completely empty.
A divertimento in D.
Same.
A Cassazione in G.
Conventional.
A grand litany in D flat.
Oh, even boring. The productions of a precocious youngster. Leopold Mozart's swanky son, nothing more. That serenade had obviously been an exception in the young man's work, a sort of accident which might visit any composer on a lucky day. Yeah. Had I simply been taken by surprise that the filthy creature could write music at all? Suddenly I felt myself immensely cheered. I would seek him out and welcome him myself to Vienna.
That's some fireworks, gentlemen. Mozart is here. He's waiting below.
Your Majesty.
Je suis for your more impatient.
The Emperor Joseph II of Austria, son of Maria Theresa, brother of Marie Antoinette, adorer of music, provided that it made no demands upon the royal ear. Your Majesty, I have written a little march in Mozart's honor. May I play it for him as he comes in?
By all means, court composer. What a delightful idea. Have you met him yet?
Oh, not yet, Majesty.
Fetes and fireworks, what fun. Strack, bring him up at once. Mon Dieu, I wish we could have a competition. Mozart against some other virtuoso. 2 keyboards in contest. Wouldn't that be fun, Baron?
Not me, Majesty. In my opinion, musicians are not horses to be run one against another.
Ah. Well, there it is.
Herr Mozart, Majesty.
Splendid. Court composer, I know. Let him please. Charming. Homme d'habitude. Mozart.
Majesty, your Majesty's humble slave. Let me kiss your royal hand 100,000 times.
No, s'il vous plaît. A little less enthusiasm, I beg you. Come, sir, levez-vous. You will not recall it, but the last time we met, you were also on this floor. My sister remembers it to this day. This young man, all of 6 years old, mind you, slipped on the floor at Chambron, came a nasty perler on his little head. Have I told you this before?
No, Majesty. No, Majesty.
Well, my sister Antoinette runs forward and picks him up herself. And do you know what he does? He jumps right into her arms. Hoopla, just like that. Kisses her on both cheeks and says, "Will you marry me, yes or no?" I do not mean to embarrass you, Herr Mozart. You know everyone here, surely.
Yes, sire. Herr Director, Herr Prefect.
But not, I think, our esteemed court composer. A most serious omission. No one who cares for art can afford not to know Herr Salieri. He wrote that exquisite little march of welcome for you.
It was a trifle, Your Majesty.
Nevertheless,
I'm overwhelmed, signore.
ideas simply pour out of him, don't they, Scrap?
Endlessly, sire. Well done, Salieri.
Let it be my pleasure then to introduce you. Court composer Salieri, Herr Mozart of Salzburg.
Oh, finalmente. Che gioia, che diletto straordinario.
Grazie, signori. Mille milioni di benvenuti. Sono commosso, è un onore eccezionale incontrare un compositore brillante e famosissimo.
Grazie.
Tell me, Mozart, have you received our commission for the opera?
Indeed I have, Majesty. I'm so grateful I can hardly speak. I swear to you that you will have the best, the most perfect entertainment ever offered a monarch. I've already found a libretto.
Have you? I haven't heard of this.
Forgive me, Herr Director, I entirely omitted to tell you.
Oh, may I ask why?
It didn't seem very important.
Not important?
Not really, no.
It is important to me, Herr Mozart.
Yes, I see that.
And who, pray, is it by?
Stephanie.
Most unpleasant man.
But a brilliant writer.
Do you think?
Majesty, the story is really amusing. The whole plot is set in a...
Where? Where is it set?
It's really rather saucy, Majesty.
Yes, yes. Where?
Well, it's actually set in a seraglio.
A what?
A pasha's harem.
And you imagine that a suitable subject for performance at a national theater?
Yes, no, yes. I mean, yes, I do. Why not? It's very funny. It's amusing. On my honor, Majesty, that there's nothing offensive in it. Nothing offensive in the world. It's full of proper German virtues, I swear it.
Scusate, signore, but what are those? Being a foreigner, I'm not quite sure.
You're being cattivo, court composer.
Oh, not at all, Majesty.
Come then, Mozart. Name us a proper German virtue.
Love, sire. I have yet to see that expressed in any opera.
Well answered, Mozart.
Scusate, signore, but I was under the impression that one rarely saw anything else expressed in opera.
I mean manly love, signore, not male sopranos screeching or stupid couples rolling their eyes. All that absurd Italian rubbish. I mean the real thing.
And do you know the real thing yourself, Herr Mozart?
Under your pardon, I think I do, Majesty.
Bravo. When do you think it will be done?
The first act is already finished.
But it can't be more than 2 weeks since you've started.
Composing is not hard when you have the right audience to please, sire.
Charming reply, Majesty.
Indeed, Baron. Fêtes and fireworks. I see we're going to have fêtes and fireworks. Au revoir, Monsieur Mozart. Soyez bienvenue à la cour.
Majesté. Je suis comblé d'honneur d'être accepté dans la maison du père de tous les musiciens. C'est vu un monarque aussi plein de discernement que votre majesté. C'est un honneur qui dépasse le sommet de Medu.
Ah. Well, there it is. I'll leave you gentlemen to get better acquainted.
Your Majesty.
Votre majesté.
Good day to you.
Welcome, Mozart. I shall see much more of you. Depend on it.
Thank you, Baron. Ben.
I too wish you success with your opera.
I'll have it. It's going to be superb. I must tell you that I've already found the most excellent singer for the leading part.
Oh, really? Who's that?
Her name is Cavalieri. Caterina Cavalieri. You see, she's really German, but she thinks it will advance her career if she sports an Italian name.
She's quite right. It was my idea. She is, in fact, my prized pupil. Although, you know, she's really a very innocent child, silly in the way of young singers. In fact, you know, she's only 20. I had kept my hands off of Katrina, yes, but I could not bear the thought of anyone else's honor, least of all his.
You're a good fellow, Salieri, and that's a jolly little thing you wrote for me.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
Let's see if I can remember it, may I?
Oh, by all means. Well, it's yours.
Grazie, signore. The rest is just the same, isn't it?
You have a remarkable memory.
Grazie ancora, signore. That fourth really doesn't quite work, does it? Let's try the third above. Ah, yes.
Scusate, I must go.
Really? Why don't you try,
Oh, no,
Barry?
no, thank you. I must attend on the Emperor. It was delightful meeting you.
For me, too. And thanks for the march.
Was it then, so soon, that I began to entertain thoughts of murder? Of course not. At least not in life. Now, in art, though, it was another matter. I decided that I would compose a tragic opera, something to astonish the world. And I knew my theme. I would set the legend of Danaus, who for a monstrous crime was chained to a rock for eternity, his head repeatedly struck by lightning. Wickedly, I saw Mozart in that position. But in reality, the young man was in no danger from me at all. Not yet. The first performance of the abduction from the Seraglio, the German expression of manly love. He himself had contrived to wear for the occasion an even more vulgar coat than usual. As for the music, it matched the coat completely. For my dear pupil, Katrina Cavalieri, he had written quite simply the showiest aria I have ever heard. "10 minutes of scales and ornaments, amounting in sum to a vast emptiness." So ridiculous was the piece, in fact, so much what might have been demanded by a foolish young soprano, that I knew precisely what Mozart must have demanded in return for it. Although engaged to be married, he'd had her. I knew that beyond any doubt. The creature had had my darling girl.
Excuse me.
Majesty, may I present my fiancée, Fraulein Weber?
Enchanté, Fräulein.
Your Majesty.
Constanza is a singer herself, Majesty.
Indeed.
I'm not at all Majesty. Don't be silly, Wolfgang.
So, Mozart, a good effort. Decidedly that. A good effort.
Did you really like it, sire?
I thought it was most interesting. Yes, indeed. A trifle... how shall one say? How shall one say, Director?
Too many notes, Your Majesty.
Very well put. Too many notes.
I don't understand, Majesty.
My dear fellow, don't take it too hard. There are, in fact, only so many notes the ear can hear in the course of an evening. I think I'm right in saying that, aren't I, court composer?
Well, yes, Your Majesty. On the whole, yes. I would say, yes.
There you are. It's clever. It's German. It's quality work. And there are simply too many notes. Do you see?
Majesty, there are just as many notes, neither more nor less, than are required.
Ah. Well, there it is.
What did I do? Herr Salieri, is he angry with me?
Oh, not at all. In fact, he respects you for your views.
I hope so. What did you think yourself, sir? Did you care for the piece at all?
Oh, yes, of course, Mozart. At its best, it was truly charming.
And at other times?
Well, just occasionally. At other times, in Katerina's aria, for example, it was a little excessive.
Katharina is an excessive girl. In fact, you might say she's insatiable. I mean in regard to vocal ornaments, of course.
Yes, well, all the same, as my revered teacher, the Chevalier Gluck, used to tell me, one must avoid music that smells of music.
What does that mean?
Music which makes one too aware of the virtuosity of the composer.
Gluck is absurd.
What did you say?
He's talked all his life about modernizing opera, but he creates people so lofty they sound as though they shit marble. No, but it's too much. Gluck says, Chevalier Gluck. What's a chevalier? I am a chevalier. The Pope made me a chevalier when I was still wetting my bed. Anyway, it's ridiculous. Only stupid farts use titles.
Such as court composer?
What? Oh. My father's right again. He always tells me I should padlock my mouth. Actually, I shouldn't speak at all.
Oh, nonsense. I was merely being what the Emperor calls cattivo. Won't you introduce me to your charming fiancée?
Oh, yes, of course. Constanza, this is Herr Court Composer Salieri, Fraulein Weber.
Delighted, caro Fraulein.
How do you do, Excellency?
You are the sister of Aloysia Weber, the soprano, are you not?
I am, Excellency.
Yes, a beauty herself. But you exceed her by far, if I may observe so.
Oh, thank you.
May I ask when you marry?
We have to secure my father's consent first. He's an excellent man, a wonderful man, but in some ways a little stubborn.
Excuse me, but how old are you?
26.
Well, then your father's consent is scarcely indispensable.
You see.
No, it's not indispensable. Of course not.
Well, then, my advice to you is to marry and be happy. You have found, it is obvious, un tesoro raro.
Ta very much.
Good night to you both.
Good night, Excellency.
Good night, sir, and thank you. Constanza.
As I watched her walk away on the arm of the creature, I felt the lightning thought strike. Have her. Her for Katerina. Oh, no abomination. Never before in my life had I entertained a notion so sinful.
They're married.
What?
Mozart and Weber married. His father will be furious.
Didn't even wait for his consent.
Had they set up house?
Wittlinger Strasse.
Number 12,
Not bad.
considering they've no money.
Is this really true?
He's wildly extravagant.
Lives way beyond his means.
He has pupils, though.
Only 3.
Why so few?
He's embarrassing. Makes scenes. Makes enemies.
Even Strack, whom he cultivates.
Chamberlain Strack?
Only last night at Kapellmeister Bono's.
Oh, you're 7 months in this city and not one job. I'm not to be tried again, is that it?
Of course it isn't.
I know what goes on here, and so do you. Vienna is completely in the hands of foreigners. Worthless wops like Kapellmeister Bono.
Please, you're in the man's house.
Court composer Salieri. Hush! Did you hear his last opera, The Chimney Sweep? Did you?
Of course I did.
Dog shit. Drive dog shit. Beg your pardon. Bum 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 bum. Tonic and dominant from here to resurrection. Not one interesting modulation all night. Salieri is a musical idiot.
Please.
He'd had too much to drink.
He often has.
Why are Italians so terrified by the slightest complexity in music? Show them one chromatic passage and they faint. Oh, how sick! How morbid! Mortiboso! Nervoso! Oy me! No wonder the music at this court is so dreary.
Lower your voice.
Lower your breeches! I shouldn't have said that, should I? It was just a joke. You look like a toad. I mean, you're goggling like a toad.
You would do best to retire tonight for your own sake.
Salieri has 50 pupils. I have 3. How am I to live? I'm a married man now. Of course, I realize you don't concern yourselves with money in these exalted circles. All the same, did you know that behind his back, His Majesty is known as Kaiser Keep It? Oh, I shouldn't have said that, should I? It was just a joke, another joke. I can't help myself. We're all friends here, aren't we? What's the matter with him?
Good night.
No, please, sir. Your hand first, please. Grant me a post, sir.
That is not in my power, Mozart.
The Princess Elizabeth needs a tutor. One word from you could secure it for me.
I regret that is solely in the recommendation of court composer Salieri.
Do you know that I'm better than any musician in Vienna? Huh? Do you? No. The devil take the lot of them. Nothing but cabals and cliques everywhere you look. What is here for an honest German fellow? The girl who doesn't like me. The girl who doesn't like me. The girl who doesn't like me can lick my arse instead. Oh!
Barely 1 month later, the thought of revenge became more than thought.
Forfeit, Stanzo, you've got to forfeit.
I won't.
You have to. It's the game.
Once again, believe it or not, I was in the same concealing chair in the Baroness's library, consuming the same delicious dessert.
You've lost. Now there's a penalty.
A party celebrating the New Year's Eve. I was alone, my wife visiting her parents in Italy.
What is it?
I want to measure your calf. Well?
Definitely not, you cheeky bugger.
Now, come on.
You've got to let him, Stanza. All's fair in love and forfeits.
No, it isn't, so you can both buzz off.
If you don't let her, she won't be allowed to play again.
Oh, well, choose something else.
I've chosen this. Now, get up in the stool. Quick, quick. Alley-oop.
All right, quick, before anyone sees.
Hold her, Friedrich.
Oh, I don't need to be held, thank you.
Yes, you do. That's part of the penalty.
Stop, oh, that's enough.
17 inches from knee to ankle.
Oh, you hold her, Carl. Let me.
All
Oh,
right.
that's not fair.
Yes, it is. You lost to me, too.
Oh, it's been done now, let me down.
Hold her, Carl.
Gentlemen, if you please.
Oh, it's only a game, Wolfro.
We meant no harm, upon my word.
Come down off that table, please. Thank you. We'll see you later.
Now look, Mozart, don't be pompous.
Please excuse us now! Do you realize what you've done?
No, what?
Just lost your reputation, that's all. You're now a loose girl.
Don't be stupid.
You were a married woman, for God's sake.
And what of it?
A young wife does not allow her legs to be handled in public. Couldn't you at least have measured your own ugly legs?
What? Of course, they're not as good as my sister's. Aloysia had perfect legs. We all know that.
You know what you've done? You've shamed me, that's all. Shamed me.
Don't be so ridiculous.
Shamed me in front of them.
You! Shamed you! That's a laugh. If there's any shame around Bloody, it's mine.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
You've only had every pupil who ever came to you.
That is not true.
Every single female pupil.
Name them. Name them.
The Arnhammer girl, the Rumbeck girl, Katerina Cavalieri. Sly little whore. She wasn't even your pupil, she was Salieri's. Which actually, my dear, may be why he has hundreds and you have none. He doesn't drag them into bed.
Of course he doesn't! He can't get it up, that's why! Have you heard his music? That is the sound of someone who can't get it up! At least I can do that.
I'm sick of you.
No one ever said that I couldn't do that!
Give a fart! I hate you! I hate you forever and ever! I hate you and...
Oh, Stanzi, please. Please don't cry. I can't bear it when you cry. I just didn't want you to look cheap in people's eyes, that's all. Here. Beat me. Beat me, Stanzi Marini, Beanie Genie. I'll just stand there like a little lamb and bear your strokes. Here, do it. Bati.
No.
Bati, mio tesoro.
No.
Stanzi Vansley, Biggly Poo.
Stop it.
Stanzi Wansy had a fit shitter stays and made them split.
Stop it.
And when they took away her skirt, Stanzi Wansy ate the dirt.
Stop it now.
Oh, do it again. Do it again. I cast myself at your stinking feet, Madonna. Oh, come on. Oh.
Good evening.
Excellency.
How long have you been there?
Oh, I was asleep until just a moment ago. Are you two quarreling?
No, we're not. We're not quarreling. Of course not.
Yes, we are. He's been very irritating.
Come now, Carol Hare. Tonight is the night for New Year's resolutions. Irritating, lovely young ladies cannot surely be one of yours. May I suggest that you bring us each a sorbetto from the dining room?
But why don't we all go to the table?
No. Herr Salieri is quite right. Bring them here. It'll be your punishment.
Stanzi!
Oh, come now, Mozart. I can keep your wife company. There cannot be a better peace offering than a sorbetto of almonds.
Oh, I prefer tangerine.
Well, very well, in tangerine. But if you could manage almonds for me, I would be greatly obliged. So that the new year can begin coolly for the three of us?
I'm honored, signore. And then I'll play with billiards. What do you say?
Oh, I'm afraid I don't play.
You don't?
No.
Oh, Wolfie would rather play billiards than anything. He's very good at it.
I'm the best. I may not occasionally at composing, but at billiards, never.
A virtuoso of the cue.
Exactly. It's a virtuoso's game. I think that I shall write a grand fantasia for billiard balls. Trios, cacciatores, whole arpeggios and ivory. And then I'll play it myself in public. It'll have to be me because none of those Italian charlatans like Clementi will be able to fit his fingers round the cue. Scusate, signore.
He's a love, really.
And lucky, too, in you. You are, if I may say so, an astonishing creature.
He? Oh, how very much.
On the other hand, your husband does not appear to be so thriving.
We're desperate, sir.
What?
We've no money and no prospect of any. That's the truth.
Well, I don't understand. He gives many public concerts.
But they don't pay enough. What he needs is pupils. Illustrious pupils. His father calls us spendthrifts, but that's unfair. I manage as well as anyone could. There's simply not enough. Please, Excellency, don't tell him that I spoke to you.
No. This is solely between us. Now, how can I help?
My husband needs security, sir. If only he could find regular employment, everything would be all right. Is there nothing at court?
Nothing at the moment.
Well, the Princess Elizabeth needs a tutor.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard.
One word from you and the post would be his. Other pupils would follow at once, and
Oh, no, he's coming back.
please, Excellency, you can't imagine what a difference it would make.
Well, we can't talk of it here.
When then, please?
Can you come and visit me tomorrow alone?
Oh, I can't do that.
I'm a married man.
All the same.
Well, when does he work?
Afternoons.
Well, then come at 3.
Well, I can't possibly.
Yes or no? In his interests? So I've done it. Spoken aloud, invited her. What of that vow that I made in church that day? Virtue, chastity, all that? And what did she think of me, this careful Italian? Sincere friend or hopeful seducer? Would she come tomorrow? I had no idea. And if she did, how would I behave? I had no idea of that either. Next afternoon, I waited in a fever. Was I actually going to seduce a young wife of 2 months' standing? See, part of me, don't know much of me, wanted it badly. Badly. Yes, badly was the word. She's here. She's come on the stroke. She's come. Yes, here, set it down there. Grazie. Grazie. Tanti. Via, 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 via. Signora.
Excellency.
Benvenuta. Grazie. Well, you've come.
I shouldn't have done. My husband would be frantic if he knew. He's a very jealous man.
Oh. Are you a jealous woman?
Why do you ask?
It's not a passion that I understand. You're looking even lovelier than you were last night, if I may say so.
How very much. I've brought you some manuscripts by Wolfgang. When you see them, you'll understand how right he is for a royal appointment. Would you look at them, please, while I wait?
Oh, you mean now?
Oh, yes. I have to take them back with me. He'll miss them otherwise. He doesn't make copies. These are the originals.
No, here. Please, sit down. Let me offer you something special.
Oh, what's that?
Capezzoli di Venere, nipples of Venus. Roman chestnuts in brandied sugar.
Oh. No, thank you.
Oh, no, do try. They were made especially for you.
Oh, for me?
Yes.
Well, then, I'd better, hadn't I? Well, just one. Tall very much. They're delish.
Aren't they? Here, have another.
Oh, I couldn't possibly.
I think that you are the most generous girl in the world.
Generous?
Yes, that's my name for you. Oh, I thought that last night that Constanza was altogether too stiff a name for that girl. I shall rechristen her Generosa. La Generosa. And I'll write a glorious song for her under that title, and she will sing it just for me.
My sister's the singer, sir.
La Generosa. Now, don't tell me it's going to prove inaccurate, my little name for you.
What name do you give your wife, Excellency?
I'm not an excellency, and I call my wife Signora Salieri. If I named her anything at all, it would be La Statua. She's a very upright lady.
Well, is she here now? I'd like to meet her.
Oh, no, alas. She's visiting her mother in Verona. Constanza. Tomorrow evening, I dine with the Emperor. One word from me recommending your husband as tutor to the Princess Elizabeth, and that invaluable post is his. Believe me, when I speak to His Majesty in matters musical, no one contradicts me.
Oh, I believe you.
Bene. Bene. Now, surely service of that sort deserves a little recompense in return?
How little?
The size of a kiss?
Just one.
If one seems fair to you. Does it?
I fancy that's fairness enough.
A pity. It's somewhat small pay concerning a post that every young musician in Vienna is hoping for.
What do you mean?
Is it not clear?
No, not at all.
A pity. 1,000 pities.
I don't believe it.
What?
I just don't believe it.
What?
What you've just said.
I said nothing. What did I say?
Oh, I'm going.
Oh,
I'm getting
no,
out of
Constanza,
this. Let me pass.
Constanza, please, no, listen to me. I'm a clumsy man. You think me sophisticated, but I'm not at all. I mean, look at me. I've no cunning. I live on ink and sweetmeats. I never see women at all. But when I saw you last night, I envied Mozart from the depths of my soul. And out of that envy came stupid thoughts. I dared imagine for one silly second that out of the vast store that you obviously possess, you might grant me one coin of tenderness that your rich husband does not need, and inspire me also. I amuse.
Mozart was right. You're wicked.
He said that.
All wops are performers, he said. Be very careful with that one. Meaning you. He was being comic, of course.
Yes.
But not that comic, actually. I mean, it's a pretty obvious role you're playing now, isn't it, dear? Small town boy. And all the time clever as cutlets. Oh, you're sulking. Are you? When Mozart sulks, I smack his body. He rather likes it. Would you like me to scold you a bit? And smack your body, too?
How dare you! You silly common girl! Forgive me. Let us confine our talk to your husband. He is a brilliant keyboard player, no question, but I understand that the Princess Elizabeth requires a tutor in vocal music. I am not convinced that he is the man for that. I would like to study the pieces that you brought me to see if he is mature enough. I will study them overnight, and you will study my proposal. Not to be vague, that is the price. Good afternoon. Fiasco! Fiasco! The sordidness of it, the sheer sweating sordidness of it, worse than if I'd actually done it. To be that much insanity feels so ridiculous as well. Didn't deserve any pity from the old bargainer above. If now my music was rejected by him forever, it would be my fault and mine alone. Would she return tomorrow? Never. And if she did, what would I do? What would I actually do? Apologize profoundly or try again? Oh, nobile Salieri. What had he done to me, this Mozart? Before he came, did I behave like this? Did I? Toy with adultery? Blackmail women? Because I'm going slipping, growing rotten because of him.
She had said that these were his original scores, first and only copies of the music, and yet they seemed like first copies, fair. They showed no corrections of any kind. It was very puzzling, and then suddenly alarming. What was evident was that Mozart was simply transcribing music completely finished in his head. And finished as most music is never finished. Displace one note, and there would be diminishment. Displace one phrase, and the structure would fall. Here only, now in abundance, were the same sounds that I'd heard in that library. The same crushed harmonies, the same glancing collisions, agonizing delights. The truth was clear. That serenade had been no accident. I was staring through the cages of his meticulous ink strokes at an absolute beauty.
Capisco. Now I know my fate. Now, for the first time, I feel my emptiness as God first showed Adam his nakedness. Tonight, at an inn, somewhere in this city, stands a giggling child who can put down on paper, without actually sitting down his billiard cue, casual notes which make my most considered ones into lifeless scratches. Grazie, signore. You have given me the desire to serve you, which most men do not have, and that ensured that the service would be shameful in the ears of the server. Grazie. You have given me the desire to praise you, which most men do not feel, and that made me mute. Grazie tanti. You have put into me perception of the incomparable, which most men do not know, and then ensured that I would know myself forever mediocre. Why? What was my fault? Until this day, I have pursued virtue with rigor. I have labored long hours to help my fellow men. I have worked and worked the talent that you have allowed me. You know how hard I've worked. Solely that, in the end, in the practice of the art which alone makes the world comprehensible to me, I might hear your voice. And now I do hear it. And it says only one name. Mozart! Spiteful, sniggering, conceited, infantine Mozart, who has never worked one day to help out another man. Shit-talking Mozart and his butty-smacking wife. Him you have chosen to be your sole conduct and my only reward. My sublime privilege is to be the sole man alive in this time who shall fully recognize your incarnation. Grazie e grazie ancora.
All right, so be it. From this time forth, we are enemies. You and I, do you understand me? I will not accept it from you. Do you hear? They say that God is not mocked. Well, I tell you that man is not mocked. I am not mocked. They say that the spirit must blow when it listeth. Well, I say that it must list to virtue or not blow at all. Dio injusto. You are the enemy. I name thee now, nemico eterno. And this I swear. To my last breath, I shall block you on this earth as far as I am able. What use, after all, is man, if not to teach God his lessons? And now, before I tell you what happened next, God's answer to me, and indeed Constanza's, I must stop for a moment. The bladder, being a human appendage, is not something that you ghosts need concern yourselves with yet. I, being alive, although barely, am at its constant call. When I return, I will tell you about the dreadful war that I waged with God. It is 1 hour before dawn, when I must release us both. I will tell you about that war that I waged with God through his preferred creature, Mozart, named Amadeus, beloved of God, in the waging of which, of course, the creature had to be destroyed. I have been listening to the cats in the courtyard. They're all singing Rossini. Oh, it's obvious that cats have declined as badly as composers. Domenico Scarlatti actually owned a cat that would stroll across the keyboard and pick out passable subjects for fugue. But then again, that was a Spanish cat of the Enlightenment. It appreciated counterpoint. Nowadays, all cats appreciate a coloratura, like the rest of the public. This is now the very last hour of my life. You must understand me. No, not forgive. No, I do not seek forgiveness. I was a good man, as the world calls good. But what use was it to me? Goodness could not make me a good composer. Was Mozart good? Goodness is nothing in the furnace of art. On that dreadful night on the manuscripts, my life took on a terrible and thrilling purpose. The blocking of God
in one of his purest manifestations. I had the power. God needed Mozart to let himself into the world, and Mozart needed me to gain him worldly advancement. So, it was a battle to the end. And Mozart, the battleground. I knew one thing about him, though. He was a cunning enemy. Witness the fact that in blocking him in the world, I was also given the satisfaction of obstructing a disliked human rival. I wonder which one of you will refuse that when it is offered, eh? I felt the danger almost at once, as soon as I had uttered my challenge. How would he answer me? Would he strike me dead for my impiety? Eh? Now, don't take me silly. I was not a sophisticate of the salons. I was a small-town Catholic, full of dread.
The first thing that happened, barely 1 hour later, suddenly Constanzo had returned, and at 10 o'clock at night, Signora.
My husband is at a soiree of Baron von Sweet. A concert of Sebastian Bach. He didn't think I would enjoy it.
I see. I'll ring if we require anything, thank you.
Where do we go, then?
What?
Or do we do it in here? Why not? Well, let's get on with it.
Your manuscripts are there on a chair. Please take them and go at once.
You shit!
Via, don't perturb!
You rotten shit!
Via! You see how it was? I would have liked her then, yes. Just then, now more than ever. But my quarrel was not with Mozart. It was through him. Through him to God who loved him so. Amadeus! Amadeus! The very next day, when Caterina Cavalieri came for her lesson, I made the same halting speech about coins of tenderness, and I dubbed the girl La Generosa. I regret that my invention in love, as in art, has always been limited. Fortunately, Caterina found it sufficient. She consumed 20 nipples of Venus, kissed me with brandy breath, and slipped easily into my bed. And she remained there for many years as my mistress behind my good wife's back. And I soon erased in sweat the sense of his little body, the creatures preceding me. So much for my vow of sexual virtue. The very next day, I went to the palace and resigned from all my committees to help a lot of poor musicians. So much for my vow of social virtue. And then I went to the emperor and recommended a man of no talent whatever to instruct the Princess Elizabeth.
Herr Sommer, a dull man, surely. What of Mozart?
Your Majesty, I cannot in good conscience recommend Mozart to teach royalty. One hears too many stories.
They may be just gossip.
Well, one of them, I regret, refers to a protege of my own, a very young singer.
Charmant.
Not pleasant, Majesty, but true.
I see. Let it be Herr Sommer, then. I dare say he can't do much harm. To be frank, no one can do much harm musically to the Princess Elizabeth.
Mozart certainly did not suspect me. The Emperor made his announcement in the usual way.
Well, there it is.
And I commiserated with the loser.
It's my own fault. My father always writes that I should be more obedient, know my place. He'll send me 16 lectures when he hears of this.
It was a most serious loss as far as Mozart was concerned.
His list of pupils hardly moved. 6 at most. And now a child to keep.
A boy.
Poor fellow. I, by contrast, prospered. This is the extraordinary truth. If I had expected any anger from God, none came. None. Instead, incredibly, in 84 and 85, I came to be regarded as infinitely the superior composer. And this despite the fact that these were the very years in which Mozart wrote his best keyboard concerti and string quartets.
Haydn calls his quartets unsurpassed.
They were, but no one heard them.
Van Swieten calls his concerti sublime.
They were, but no one noticed. The Viennese greeted each unique concerto with the same squeals of pleasure, usually reserved for a new style bonnet. Each was played once, and then completely forgotten. I alone was empowered to recognize them for what they really were. The most perfect things made by man in the whole of the 18th century. By contrast, my operas were played everywhere and saluted by everyone. I composed my Semiramis for Munich.
Rapturously received.
People faint with pleasure.
I wrote my comic opera for Vienna, La Gratta di Trofonio.
The talk of the city.
The cafes are buzzing.
Your name sounds throughout the empire.
I finally finished my tragic opera Danaeus and produced it in Paris.
Stupendous reception.
The plaudits shake the roof.
Bravo, signore! Bravo, bravo!
It was incomprehensible, almost as if I were being pushed deliberately from triumph to triumph. I filled my head with golden opinions, yes, and this house with golden furniture. My own taste was for plain things, but I denied it. I grew confident, I grew resplendent, I gave salons and soirees, and worshiped the season round at the altar of success.
Mozart heard your comedy last night.
He spoke of it to the Princess Lichnowsky.
He said you should be made to clean up your own mess.
Really? What charmers these Salzburgers are.
People are outraged by him.
He empties drawing rooms. Now Van Swieten is angry with him.
Lord Fugue, I thought he was the Baron's little pet.
Mozart has asked leave to write an Italian opera.
Italian opera. Threat my kingdom.
And now the Baron is scandalized.
But why? What's the theme?
Figaro! The marriage of Figaro, that disgraceful play by Beaumarchais. That's all he can find to waste his talent on, a vulgar farce. When I reproved him, he said I reminded him of his father. Noblemen lusting after chambermaids, their wives dressing up in stupid disguises anyone could penetrate in a moment. Why set such rubbish to...
Because I want to do a piece about real people, Baron, and I want to set it in a real place, a boudoir. Because that, to me, is the most exciting place on earth. Look, underclothes on the floor, sheets still warm from a woman's body, even a piss pot brimming under the bed. I want life, Baron, not boring legends.
Herr Salieri's recent Danaeus was a legend, and that did not bore the French.
Well, it is impossible to bore the French, except with real life.
I had assumed, sir, now that you had joined our Brotherhood of Masons, that you would choose more elevated themes.
Elevated, elevated! The only thing a man should elevate is his doodle.
Oh, you are provoking, sir. Has everything to be a joke with you?
Excuse language, Baron, but really, how can we go on forever with these gods and heroes?
Because they go on forever, that's why. They represent the eternal in us. Opera is here to ennoble us, Mozart. You and me as well as the Emperor. It's an aggrandizing art. It celebrates the eternal in man and ignores the ephemeral, the goddess in woman, and not the laundress.
Well said, sir. Exactly.
Well said, yes, well said. Exactly. I don't understand you. You're all up on purchase, but it doesn't hide your arseholes. You don't give a shit about gods and heroes. If you were honest, each one of you, which of you isn't more at home with his hairdresser than Hercules, or Horatius, or your stupid Danaeus, come to that, huh? Or mine, Mithridate, king of Pontus, Idomeneo, king of Crete. All those anguished antiques. They're all bores. Bores, bores, bores! All serious operas written in this century are boring. Look at us. 4 gaping mouths. What a perfect quartet, huh? I'd like to write it this second of time, this now as you are. Herr Chamberlain, thinking. Impertinent Mozart, I must speak to the emperor at once. Herr Prefect, thinking. Ignorant Mozart, debasing opera with his vulgarity. Herr Court Composer, thinking. German Mozart! What can he finally know about music? And Herr Mozart himself in the middle thinking, I'm just a good fellow, why do they all disapprove of me? That is why opera is important, Baron, because it is realer than any play. A dramatic poet would have to set down all his thoughts, one after another, to represent this second of time. The composer can do them all at once, and still make us hear each one of them. Astonishing device, a vocal quartet. I tell you, did I want to write a finale lasting half an hour? A quartet becoming a quintet, becoming a sextet. On and on, wider and wider. All sounds multiplying and rising together. And the together making a sound entirely new. I bet you that's how God hears the world. Millions of sounds descending at once and mixing in his ear to become an unending music. Unimaginable to us. That is our job. That's our job, we composers. To combine the inner thoughts of him and him and him and her and her. The thoughts of chambermaids and court composers. And turn that audience into God. Excuse me, I talk nonsense all day. It's incurable, ask Stanzi. My tongue is stupid, Baron, but my heart isn't.
No, you're a good fellow under all your nonsense. I know that. You'll make a fine new brother Mason, won't he, Salieri?
Better than I, Baron.
Just try, my friend, to be more serious with your gifts.
Buona fortuna, Mozart.
Grazie, signore. Stop frowning, Herr Chamberlain. I'm a jackass. It's easy to make friends with a jackass. Just shake his hoof. Tell the emperor the opera's finished. Finished? Right here in my noodle. The rest is just scribbling. Goodbye.
Good day to you.
He's going to be proud of me. You'll see.
That young man is really
Very lively.
intolerable. Intolerable!
How could I block it? How could I stop this Figaro? Incredible to hear within 6 weeks, the creature had finished the entire score.
Figaro is complete. The first performance will be on May the 1st.
What, so soon?
There's no way we can stop it.
No. I have an idea, una piccola idea.
What?
Mi ha detto che un balletto nel terzo atto?
What does he say?
E dimmi, non è vero che l'impalsatore ha proibito il balletto nelle sue opere?
Ah, un balletto.
Precisamente.
Ah, ma che meraviglia. Che perfetto. Ah, veramente ingenioso.
What is it? What is he
See
suggesting?
him at the theater.
Of course, immediately. You are brilliant, court composer.
I? Well, I said nothing.
To tell you, sir, I resent this extremely. Mozart is right about some things. There is far too much Italian chittero-chatter in this court. Now, please to inform me at once what was just said.
Pazienza, my dear Chamberlain. Pazienza. Just wait and see. Mozart.
Yes, Herr Director.
A word, would you please? Right away.
Certainly. What is it?
I would like to see your score of Figaro.
Yes. Why?
Just bring it here. into my hand, please. Now, tell me, did you not know that the Emperor has expressly forbidden ballet in his opera?
Ballet?
Such as occurs in your third act.
That is not a ballet, Herr Director. That is a dance at Figaro's wedding.
Exactly, a dance.
But the Emperor does not mean to prohibit dancing when it's part of the story. He made that law to prevent insertions of stupid ballet, like in French operas. And quite right, too.
It is not for you, Herr Mozart, to interpret the Emperor's edicts, merely to obey them.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Excellency?
Taking out what should have never been put in. There. Now, perhaps in future you will obey imperial command.
But if all that goes, there'll be a hole. A hole right in the climax of the story. Salieri! This is Salieri's idea!
Don't be absurd.
How did he think of that? Nothing I'd ever done could possibly make him think of that on his own. Had God given him the idea?
It's a conspiracy. I can smell it. I can smell it!
Control yourself.
But what do you expect me to do? The first performance is only 2 days off!
Write it over. That's your forte, is it not? Writing at speed?
Not when the music is perfect. Not when it's absolutely perfect as it is! I shall appeal to the Emperor. I'll go to him myself. I'll hold a rehearsal especially for him.
The Emperor does not attend rehearsals.
He'll attend this one. Make no mistake. He will come to this one, and then he'll deal with you.
The issue is simple. Merely write your act again or withdraw the opera. That's fine.
You shitpot. You floppy, wet-arse, Italian-loving shitpot. Cantorcini, rose and shit. Rose and rose and butter. I'll hold rehearsal. You'll see. The Emperor will come. You'll see. You'll see. You'll see. I am forbidden. But I guess, of course, you know that already.
No, what?
No matter.
Mozart, permit me. If you wish, I shall speak to the Emperor myself. Ask him to attend a rehearsal.
You wouldn't.
I cannot promise that he will come, but I can try.
Sir.
Good day. Needless to say, I did nothing whatsoever in the matter. And yet, to my total stupefaction, in the middle of the last rehearsal at Figaro the next day...
Fets and fireworks, fets and fireworks. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Entirely against his usual practice, the Emperor had appeared.
I can't wait for this, Mozart, I assure you. Je prévois des merveilles.
Majesty.
What did this mean, huh? Was this proof that God had finally decided to defend Mozart against me? Was he engaging with me at last?
I'm so grateful to you I cannot express it.
Hush, just say nothing. One thing about the event certainly seemed more than coincidence. Strangely, the Emperor had appeared at the rehearsal at precisely the moment that the dancers would have appeared, had not they and their music been entirely cut. He and all of us watched the action as it proceeded in total silence.
I don't understand. Is it modern?
No, Majesty.
Then what?
The Herr Direttore has removed a dance that would have occurred at this point.
Why was this done?
It's your own regulation, sire. No ballet in your opera.
Majesty, this is not a ballet. It is a dance at a wedding feast, entirely necessary for the story.
Well, it certainly looks very odd the way it is. I can't say I like it.
Nor do I, Majesty.
Do you like it, Rosenberg?
It's not a question of liking, Majesty. Your own law requires it.
Yes. All the same, this is nonsense. Look at them. They're like waxworks up there.
Well, not exactly, Your Majesty.
I don't like waxworks.
Nor do I, Majesty.
Well, who would? What do you say, Salieri?
Italians are very fond of waxworks, Your Majesty. Our religion is largely based upon them.
Your Cativo again, court composer.
Your Majesty, Count Rosenberg is very afraid that if the music is put back, it would cause a most unfortunate precedent. One would have thereafter to endure hours of dancing in opera.
I think we can guard against that, you know, Chamberlain. I really think we can guard against hours of dancing. Please restore Herr Mozart's music.
But, Majesty, I must insist.
You will oblige me, Rosenberg. I wish to hear Mozart's music. Do you understand?
Yes, Majesty.
Oh, thank you, sire. Oh, God, I thank you forever and ever.
Yes, yes, very good. A little less enthusiasm, I beg you.
Excuse me.
Well, there it is.
And so, in spite of all my efforts, Figaro was produced. I sat in my box and watched it happen. It was a most conspicuous defeat for me. And yet, I felt strangely excited. My march, my poor march of welcome, now set to enchant the world forever.
Rather in your style, that last bit, but more obvious, of course, far more than you would ever be.
Yes, exactly. Trembling, I watched the second act. The restored third act. The astounding fourth. What can I say to you who will one day see this last act for yourselves? You will. Because whatever else will pass away, this must remain. The scene was night in a summer garden. Pinprick stars shone down on shaking summer houses. Plotters glided behind pasteboard hedges. I saw a woman dressed in her maid's clothes, hear her husband utter the first tender words that he has offered her in years, only because he thinks that she is someone else. Could one catch a realer moment? And how else except in a net of pure artifice? The disguises of opera had been invented for Mozart. The final reconciliation melted sight. And through my tears, I saw the emperor yawn.
Most ingenious, Mozart. You're coming along nicely. I do think we must omit encores in future. It really makes things far too long. Make a note, Rosenberg.
Majesty.
Gentlemen, good evening to you. Strack, attend me.
Salieri.
Yes.
Do you think I am coming along nicely?
I thought the piece was extraordinary. I thought it was marvelous, yes.
I'll tell you what it is. It is the best opera yet written, and only I could have done it. No one else living.
Rosenberger's furious.
You'll never forgive Mozart.
He'll do anything to get back at him.
So it was not difficult to get the piece canceled. I saw to it, through the person of the resentful director, that in the entire year Figaro was played only 9 times. My defeat finally turned into a victory, and God's response to my challenge was as inscrutable as ever. Was he taking any notice of me at all?
Withdrawn! Absolutely no chance for revival.
I commiserate with you, my friend, but if the public does not like one's work, then one must accept the fact gracefully. And certainly they didn't.
It's too complicated.
Too tiresome.
All those weird harmonies.
And never a good bang at the end of songs, so you know when to clap.
Obviously, I would not have to plot too hard against his operas in future. The Viennese could be counted upon to destroy those for me. I must concentrate upon the man himself. I decided to see him whenever I could, to learn everything possible about his weaknesses.
I'll go to England. England loves music, that's the answer.
We were yet again in the library of the Baroness Waldstadtens. That room fated to be the scene of ghastly encounters between us. And once again, the compensating crema al mascarpone.
I was there when I was a boy. They absolutely adored me. I've had more kisses than you've had cakes. When I was a child, people loved me.
Well, perhaps they will again. Why don't you go to London and try?
Because I have a wife and a child and no money. I wrote to Papa to take the boy off my hands just for a few months so I could go. And he refused. In the end, everyone betrays you. Even the man you think loves you most. He is a bitter man, of course. After he'd finished showing me off around Europe, he never went anywhere himself. He just stayed locked up in Salzburg year after year, kissing the ring of the farts bishop and lecturing me. The real thing is, you see, he's jealous. Under everything, he's jealous of me. He'll never forgive me for being cleverer than he is. I'll tell you a secret. Leopold Mozart is just a jealous, dried-up old turd. And actually, I detest him.
Leopold Mozart.
Leopold Mozart.
Leopold Mozart is dead.
Wolfgang, do not despair. Death is inevitable, my friend.
How will I go now?
What do you mean?
In the world, there's no one else, no one who understands the wickedness around. I can't see it. He watched for me all my life, and I betrayed him.
Oh, no.
I talked against him.
No.
I married where he begged me not. I left him alone. I danced and played billiards and fooled about. And he sat by himself, night after night, in an empty house. And no woman to care for.
Wolfgang, my dear Wolfgang, do not accuse yourself. Lean upon me if you care to. Lean upon me.
Papa!
So rose the ghost father in Don Giovanni. Father more accusing than in any opera. So rose the figure of a guilty libertine cast into hell. I looked on astounded as from his ordinary life he made his art. We were both ordinary men, he and I, and yet he from the ordinary created legends. And I from legends created only the ordinary. Could I not have stopped my war? Shown him some pity? Oh, yes, my friends, yes. At any time, if he above had shown me one drop of it, every day I set to work, I prayed. Oh, I still prayed, you understand. make this one good in my ears. Just this one. One! But would he ever? I heard my music calmed in convention, not one breath of spirit to lift it up off the shallows. And I heard his, the spirit singing through it, unstoppable to my ears alone. I heard his comedy of the seduction of two sisters, così fan tutte, thus do all women. Aloysia and Constanza immortalized. Two average girls turned into divinities. Their sounds of surrender sweeter than the psalms in heaven. Grant this to me. Grant this to me. No, 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 Salieri. I do not need you. I have Mozart. Better for you to remain silent. The creature's dreadful giggle was the laughter of God. I had to stop it. But how? There was only one way. Starvation. Starve out the god, reduce the man to destitution. How do you fare today?
Badly. I have no money, no prospect of any.
It would not be too hard, surely.
We must find him a post.
One danger, the Emperor. Majesty, there's nothing available.
There's chamber composer now that Gluck is dead.
Mozart to follow Gluck?
I won't have him say I drove him away. You know what a tongue he has.
Very well, Majesty. Then grant him Gluck's post, but not his salary. That would be wrong.
Gluck got 2,000 florins a year. What should Mozart get?
200. Light payment, yes, but for light duties.
Perfectly fair. I'm obliged to you, court composer.
Your Majesty. Easily done, yeah. Like many men obsessed with being thought generous, the Emperor was quite essentially stingy.
Herr Mozart, vous nous faites sonner.
It is a damn insult! Not enough to keep a mouse in cheese for a week.
Regard it as a token, caro hair.
When I was young, they gave me snuff boxes. Now it's tokens. And for what? Pom-pom for fireworks, twang-twang for contredanses.
Sorry if it's made you angry. I'd never have suggested it if I thought you'd become distressed.
You suggested it?
I regret that I was not able to do more.
Forgive me. You're a kind man. I see that now. You're truly a generous man, and I'm a monstrous fool.
Oh, no, please.
You make me ashamed, you excellent, excellent man.
No, s'il vous plaît. A little less enthusiasm, I beg you. Wolfgang, are you all right?
I get cramps sometimes in my stomach.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, it's nothing, really.
Will I see you soon again?
Of course.
Won't you come and visit me?
I will, I promise.
Oh, Bene.
Bene.
My friend, my new friend. Now, if ever, was the moment for God to crush me. I waited. And do you know what happened? I had just ruined Mozart's career in court. God rewarded me by granting me my dearest wish.
Kapellmeister Bono.
Kapellmeister Bono.
Kapellmeister Bono is dead. You are appointed
By royal decree.
to fill his place.
First royal and imperial Kapellmeister to our court.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Viva, Salieri.
Well done, Salieri.
Dear Salieri, there it is.
I was now truly alarmed. How long would I go unpunished?
Congratulations, sir. Mozart looks appalling.
It must be galling, of course.
I hear he's constantly dosing himself with medicine.
For what?
Envy, I imagine.
And I hear there's another child on the way.
There is. I've seen the mother.
I met him next in the Prater.
Congratulations, sir.
Well, I thank you. And to you both. Clearly there was a change for the worse. His eyes gleamed oddly, like a dog's when the light catches. I hear you're not well, my friend.
I'm not. My pains stay with me.
Oh, how wretched. And what can they be?
Also, I sleep badly. I have bad dreams.
Dreams?
Always the same one. A figure comes to me dressed in gray, doing this. It has no face, just gray like a mask. What can it mean, do you think?
Well, surely you do not believe in dreams.
No, of course not. Really?
Well, surely you do not, madam.
I never dreamed, sir. Things are unpleasant enough to me awake.
It's all fancy, of course.
If Wolfgang had proper work, he might dream less, First Captain.
Stanzen, please. We are well enough, thank you. Please excuse us. Come, dearest.
He's growing freakish.
No question.
Gray figures with masked faces.
He broods too much on his father, I fancy. Also, his circumstances make him anxious.
I hear they've moved house again.
To the Raunstein-Gasse, number 970.
They must be desperate.
It's a real slum.
Does he earn any money at all, apart from his post?
None whatsoever.
I hear he's starting to beg.
I hear he's written letters to 20 brother Masons.
Really?
And they're giving him money.
Yes, of course. They would. I had forgotten all about the Masons. Naturally, they would relieve how stupid of me. Believe me, no finally starving him out with the Masons there to help. As long as he kept asking, they would keep supplying his wants. How could I stop it quickly?
Lord Fugue is most displeased with him.
Is he?
This is not good, brother. The lodge was not created for you to beg from.
But what else can I do?
Give concerts as you used to do.
I have no subscribers left, Baron. I'm no longer fashionable.
I'm not surprised. You write tasteless comedies which give offense. I warned you often enough.
You did. I admit it.
I shall send you some fugues of Bach tomorrow. You can arrange those for my concert on Sunday. You shall have a small fee.
Thank you, Baron. I cannot live by arranging Bach!
Oh, a generous fellow.
All the same, I'll have to do it. If you were to turn the lodge against me, I'd be finished.
Absolutely true.
My brother Masons virtually keep me now. Oh, but never mind. I'll manage. You'll see. Things are looking up for me already. I've had a marvelous proposal from Schickinator. He's a new member of this lodge.
Schickinator, the actor?
Yes, he owns a theater in the suburbs.
Well, more of a music hall, surely.
Yes. He wants me to write him a vaudeville. Something for ordinary German people. Isn't that a wonderful idea? He's offered me half the receipts when we open.
Nothing in advance?
He said he couldn't afford anything. I know it's not much of an offer, but a popular piece about brotherly love could celebrate everything. Everything we believe as Masons.
It certainly could. Why don't you put the Masons into it?
To an opera? I couldn't. All the same, what an idea!
Our rituals are secret, Wolfgang.
I needn't copy them exactly. I could adapt them a little bit.
Well, certainly would be in a great cause.
Brotherly love.
It's brotherly love.
Yes, try it and see. Have courage, Wolfgang. It's a glorious idea.
It is, isn't it? It really is!
Of course, say nothing about it until it's finished.
Not a word.
Secret?
Secret.
Good. And if that didn't finish him off with the Masons, nothing would.
Mozart is delighted with himself.
He's writing a secret opera.
And won't tell anyone its theme.
It's really too tiresome.
He told me. Yes, he told me everything. Initiation ceremonies, ceremonies with blindfolds, all rituals copied from the Masons. He sat at home planning his own destruction. A home where life daily grew more grim.
Oh, I'm cold. I'm cold all day. Hardly surprising, since we have no firewood.
Papa was right. We end exactly as he said. Begging.
It's all his fault.
Papa's?
He kept you a baby all your life.
I don't understand. You always loved Papa.
Did I?
You adored him. You told me so often.
I hated him.
What?
And he hated me.
That's absurd. He loved both of us very much. You're being extremely silly now.
Am I?
Yes, you are, little wife of my heart.
Do you remember the fire that we had last night? Because it was so cold, you couldn't even get the ink wet. You said, what a blaze, remember? What a blaze, all those old papers going up. Well, my dear, all those old papers were just your father's letters. That's all. Every one he wrote since the day we were married.
What?
Everyone. All the letters about what a ninny I am. What a bad housekeeper I am. Everyone.
Stanzi!
Shit on him, shit on
You
him.
bitch!
At least it kept us warm. What else will do that? Perhaps we should dance. That's it. You love to dance, Rolfo. Let's dance. Dance to keep warm. Write me a contradance, Mozart. That's your job. Try dances, isn't it? Non più andrai farfallona amoroso. Notte giorno di estono.
Stop it! Stop it! Please, Stanzi Marini. Stanzi Marini, Beanie Genie. Stop it. Look, there's a kiss. Where's it coming from? Right out of that corner. Look, there's another one. All wet, all sloppy wet, coming straight to you. Kiss, 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 kiss.
Get off!
I'm frightened, Stanzi. Something awful's happening to me.
I can't bear it. I can't bear much more of this.
And the figure's like this now. Here! Come here! Here! Still gray. Its face, still gray, still masked, invisible! It becomes realer and realer to me.
Stop it! Stop it, for God's sake! It's me who's frightened. Me! You frighten me! If this keeps up, I'll leave you. I swear it.
Stanzi.
I mean it, I really do.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. Come here. Come here to me, little wife of my heart. Come here, here. Who am I? Who am I? Quick, hold me and tell me who I am.
Pussy wussy.
Who else?
Maui Power.
And you're Squeaky Peaky, and Stanzi Manzi, and Beanie Genie.
Poofy Poofy.
Poopy Peepy.
Oh no, don't be
Come on,
stupid.
come on, let's do it. Poppy.
Poppy.
Pappy.
Happy.
Papa.
Papa.
Papa, Papa.
Papa Papa.
Papa, 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 Papa.
Papa 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 Papa.
Papa, 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 Papa,
Papa Papa Papa.
Stanzi, what is it?
News
Suddenly,
she's been delivered
unexpectedly,
of a boy
poor little imp
to be born to that couple
in that room,
with that money.
and the father a baby himself.
And now I hear
Now I hear,
something more has happened.
even stranger.
She's gone!
What do you mean?
Stanjo's gone away. Just for a while, she says. She's taken the baby and gone to Baden. To the spa. It'll cost us the last money we have.
But why?
She's right to go. I scared her off. She thinks I'm mad.
Surely not.
Perhaps I am. Yes, I think I am mad.
Wolfgang.
Let me tell you. Last night I saw the figure again. The figure in my dreams. Only I was awake. It stood still before my table, all dressed in gray, still dressed in gray, still masked. And this time it spoke to me. It said, Wolfgang Mozart, you must write now a Requiem Mass. Take up your pen and begin.
A requiem?
I asked, who is this Requiem for? Who has died? It said the work must be finished when you see me next. And then it turned and left the room.
This is morbid fancy, my friend.
It had the force of real things. To tell you the truth, I do not know whether it came from in my head or out of it. Stanzi's right to go. I frightened her off. Now she'll miss the vaudeville.
What, it's finished so soon?
Oh, yes. Music is easy. It's marriage that's hard.
I long to see it.
Would you come, truly? The theater, it isn't grand. It's just a popular music hall. No one from court will be there.
You think that matters to me? I would travel anywhere to see a work by you. I'm no substitute for your little wife, but I think I know someone who could be. Who? I'll tell you what. I'll bring Katrina. She'll cheer you up.
Katrina.
Oh, you once enjoyed each other's company, as I understand it.
Signora.
And so to the opera we went, this strange band of three. The first royal Kapellmeister, sleek as a cat. His mistress, now fat and feathered like the great songbird she'd become. And Mozart. Demented and drunk on the cheap wine, which was now his constant habit. We went off to the suburbs to a crowded music hall in a tenement.
Hey, you, get out.
Hey.
Get out. You must be indulgent now. It's my first piece of this kind.
We sat as he wished us to, amongst ordinary Germans. The smell of sweat and sausage was almost annihilating. This is so exciting.
Do you think so?
Oh, yes, yes. This is exactly the sort of audience that we should be writing for, not that dreary court. As always, you show the way. And as always, he did. My pungent neighbors rolled on their benches at the jokes. And I alone in their midst heard the magic flute. He had put the Masons into it right enough, oh yes, but how? He had turned them into an order of eternal priests. I heard voices calling out from ancient temples. I saw a vast sun rise on a timeless land where animals danced and children floated, and by its rays, all the poisons that we feed each other drawn up and burnt away. And then behold, in the midst of that sun, his father, no longer accusing, but forgiving, the highest priest in the order, his hand extended to the world in love. Wolfgang feared Leopold no longer. The final legend had been made. The sound of that newfound peace in him mocking my undiminishing pain. There was the magic flute there beside me. Mozart the flute, God the relentless player. How long could the creature stand it? So frail, so palpably mortal. And what was this I was tasting suddenly? Could it be pity? Never. Mozart!
Baron, how good of you to come.
I, of course, had suggested it.
What have you done, Excellency? You have put our rituals into a vulgar show.
No, sir.
They are plain for all to see. And to laugh at, you have betrayed the order.
No.
Baron, a word.
Don't speak for him, Salieri. You were ever a cruel vulgarian we hope to mend. Stupid, hopeless task. Now you are a betrayer as well. I shall never forgive you. Depend on it, I shall ensure that no Freemason or person of distinction shall assist you so long as I have life.
Baron, please, I'm...
Yes, leave alone! I did not look for this reward, Mozart. Never speak to me.
Wolfgang, all is not lost. But of course it was. Now he was ruined, broken and shunned by all men of influence, and for good measure, he did not even receive his half receipts from the opera.
Schikaneder pays him nothing.
Schikaneder cheats him
Gives him enough for liquor.
and keeps all the rest.
I couldn't have managed it better myself. And then silence. No word from him at all. Why? I waited each day, nothing. Why? What does he do?
He sits at his window.
All day and all night.
Writing.
Writing like a man possessed.
Springs up every moment.
Stares wildly at the streets.
Expecting something.
Someone.
We can't imagine what.
I could. Who did he wait for? A figure in gray, masked and sorrowing, come to take him away.
I know what he was doing there alone in that slum. He was writing his Requiem Mass for himself. And now I confess the wickedest thing that I did to him. My friends, there is no blasphemy a man will not commit, compelled to such a war as mine. So, I got me a cloak of gray, yes, and I got me a hat of gray, yes, and I got me a mask of gray, yes. And appeared to the demented creature myself as the figure from his dreams, the messenger from God. I confess that in November 1791, I, Antonio Salieri, then as now first royal Kapellmeister to the empire, walked empty Vienna in the freezing moonlight for 7 nights on end. That as the clocks of the city struck 1, I would halt beneath his window to become his more terrible clock. Each night I showed him 1 day less and then stalked away. Each night the face that he showed me at the glass was more crazed. And then finally, with no nights left to him, horror, I stopped beneath his window, halted, and then instead of fingers, reached up beseechingly as the figure of his dreams. Come, come, come. He stood there swaying as if he would faint off into death. But then suddenly, incredibly, he realized all his little strength and, in a clear voice, called down to me the words from his opera Don Giovanni, inviting the statue to dinner.
O statua gentilissima, venite a cena.
For a long moment, one terrified man looked at another. And then suddenly, unbelievably, I found myself nodding, just as in the opera, starting to walk across the street. Pushing down the latch at his door, tramping up the stairs with stone feet. There was no stopping it. I was in his dream.
It's not finished. Not nearly. Forgive me. Time was I could write a mass in a week. Give me time, I beg you. He'll grant me that, surely. God can't want it unfinished. Here, look. See what I've done. Kyrie the first theme, lays on the second. Both together make a double fugue. Grant me time, I beg you. And I swear that I will write a real piece of music. I know I boasted I've written hundreds, but it's not true. I've written nothing finally good. Oh. It began so well. Once the world was so full, so happy. All the journeys, all the carriage rides, all the endless rooms of smiles. Everyone smiled at me once. The king at Schönbrunn, the princess at Versailles both lit my way with candles and the clavier. My father, bowing with such joy, Chevalier Mozart! My miraculous son. Why has it all gone? Why? Was I so bad? So wicked? Answer for him and tell me. Why? Is it not good?
It is good. Yes. It is good. I eat what God gives me, dose after dose for all of life. His poison. We are both poisoned, Amadeus. I with you, you with me. Yes. They call me Antonio Salieri. 10 years of my hate have poisoned you to death.
Oh, God.
God! God! God does not hear you! God does not hear! God does not love you, Amadeus. God does not love you. He can only use. He cares nothing for whom he uses, nothing for whom he denies. You are of no use to him anymore. You're too weak, too sick. He's finished with you, and now all you can do is die. Oh, die, Amadeus, die, please, I beg you. Die, ti imploro. Leave me alone, please. Leave me alone at last. Leave me alone, 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 alone. Papa.
Papa? Papa? Papa. Take me, Papa. Put out your arms and I'll hop into them. Just as we used to do. Hop, 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 hop. Hop up. Let's sing our little kissing song together, Papa. Do you remember? Orania figata fa, Marina Jamina fa.
Reduce the man. Reduce the God. Behold, my vow fulfilled. The profoundest voice in the world, reduced to a nursery tune.
Orania figata fa, Marina Jamina fa. 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 Stanzi?
Wolfie.
Stanzi.
Oh, my dear one. Little husband of my heart. Come with me. Come on. There. There.
Salieri. Salieri has killed me.
Yes, my dear.
He has. He told me so.
Yes, I'm sure.
He did. He did.
Hush now, lovey.
Salieri.
I'm back to take care of you.
Salieri.
I'm sorry I went away. But I'm here now for always. Oh, lovey, be silent now. No one's hurt you. And you'll get better soon. I promise. Can you hear me? If I've been a bore, if I've nagged a bit, it's because I'm spoiled, lovey. You've spoiled me. You gotta get better, Lovey. Because we need you. Carl and baby Franz as well. Well, there's only 3 of us, Lovey. We don't cost much. Just don't leave us. We wouldn't know what to do without you. And you wouldn't know much either, up in heaven without us. Soppy thing. Can't even cut up your own meat without help. I'm not clever, Lovey. It can't have been easy living with a goose. But I've looked after you, you must admit. And I've given you fun, too. Quite a lot, really. Oh, are you listening? Know one thing. It was the best day of my life when you married me. And as long as I live, I'll be the most honored woman in the world if you... Do you hear me? Can you hear me?
The death certificate, red kidney failure, hastened by exposure to cold. Generous Lord Fugue paid for a pauper's funeral, 20 other corpses, an unmarked lime pit.
What little I can spare, you shall have for the children. No sense to waste it on vain show.
What did I feel? Relief. Of course, I confess it. And pity, too, for the man that I helped to destroy. I felt the pity that God could never feel. I had weakened God's flute to thinness, and God blew as he must without cease. The flute split in the mouth of his insatiable need. As for Constanza, in the fullness of time, she married again. A Danish diplomat as dull as a clock. And returned to Salzburg, home of the great composer, to become the pious keeper of his shrine.
In 10 years of blissful marriage, I never heard him utter one coarse or conceited word. The purity of his life was reflected absolutely in the purity of his music. In selling his manuscripts, I charged by the ink. So many notes, so many shillings. It seems to me the simplest way.
One amazing fact emerged. Mozart did not imagine that figure in gray, masked and sorrowing, who asked him to write a requiem mass. It was real. A certain bizarre nobleman named Count Volseg had a longing to be thought a composer, so he sent his steward in disguise to Mozart and commissioned the opera in secret, so that he could one day pass it off as his own. And this he even did. After Mozart's death, it was actually performed as Count Volseg's Requiem. And I conducted it. Oh yes, naturally I did. In those days, I presided over all great musical occasions. I even conducted the great salvos of cannon in Beethoven's dreadful Battle Symphony. And the experience made me almost as deaf as he was. And so, I stayed on in Vienna, city of musicians, reverenced by all. And on, and on, and on, for 32 years. And finally, I began to realize the nature of God's punishment. What was it I had asked for that day in church as a boy? Was it not fame? Well, now I had fame.
I was to become quite simply the most famous musician in all of Europe. I was to become bricked up in fame, buried in fame, embalmed in fame, but for work that I knew to be absolutely worthless. This was my sentence, to endure 30 years of being called distinguished by people incapable of distinguishing. Oh, I must smell as I wrote it the deadness of my music, as their eyes brimmed with tears and their throats brayed with cheering. And finally, when my nose had been rubbed in fame to vomiting, receptions, awards, civic medals, and chains, finally, suddenly, his masterstroke. Silence. It was all to be taken away from me. Every scrap. Mozart's music would sound louder and louder throughout the world. And mine faded completely until no one played it at all. I must survive to see myself become extinct. When they trundled me out in my carriage to get my final award, a man on the street looked at me and said, "Isn't that one of the generals from Waterloo?" Nemico eterno! Dio impossibile! Dawn has come, and I must release you now. Betsy. One moment's violence, and it is over. You see, I cannot accept this to be sucked into oblivion, not even my name remembered. Oh, no, no. No, I did not live on this earth to become his joke for eternity. No, I have one trick left me. You see how he deals with this. Now, all week, I have been shouting out about murder. You heard me yourself. Do you remember? Oh, pardon me, Mozart. Pardon your assassin, Mozart. I did this deliberately. My servants carried the news out into the streets. The streets repeated it to one another. And now, my name is going to be on every tongue. Vienna, city of scandals, now has a scandal worthy of it at last. From this day forward, whenever men speak Mozart's name with love, they will speak mine with loathing. As his name grows in the world, so will mine. I'm going to be immortal after all, that he is powerless to prevent it. So now, signore, see if man is mocked. Amici cari, I was born a pair of ears and nothing else. It is only through hearing music that I know God exists, only through writing music that I could worship. All around me, men seek liberty for mankind. I sought only slavery for myself, to be owned, ordered, exhausted by an absolute. Music. This was denied me, and with it all meaning. If I cannot be Mozart, I do not wish to be anything. Well, now I go to become a ghost myself. I will stand in the shadows when you come to this earth, in your turns, and when you feel the dreadful bite of your failures, when you hear the taunting of unachievable, uncaring God, I will whisper my name to you.
Antonio Salieri, patron saint of mediocrities. And in the depths of your downcastness, you can pray to me. And I will forgive you. Vi saluto.
Beethoven's Conversation Book, November 1823. Visitors write the news for the deaf man.
Salieri has cut his throat, but is still alive.
Beethoven's Conversation Book, 1824. Visitors write the news for the deaf man.
Salieri is quite deranged. He keeps claiming that he is guilty of Mozart's death and made away with him by poison.
The German Musical Times, May 25th, 1825.
Our worthy Salieri just cannot die. In the frenzy of his imagination, he is said to accuse himself of complicity in Mozart's early death, a rambling of the mind believed in truth by no one, except the deluded old man himself.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
No
one believes it in the world.
Mediocrities of the world, now and to come, I absolve you all. Amen.